Right now, we can join Ben Ranson over in Tokyo with some very special guests.
Yeah, thank you very much. You join me on the roof of Team GB's Performance Lodge. This is where we're getting to speak to plenty of the athletes once they've finished competing, and I'm joined by two inspirational women on Sky Sports News right now this morning. If we step in, we can see we've got Polly Swan and Helen Glover, two very recognisable faces. Helen, I'll start with you. We spoke before you got back in the boat essentially during this during prep camp. You didn't know quite what to expect. Fourth place, just missing out on a bronze, but how do you reflect on what you've achieved?
Yeah, I think actually the longer I go away from the Olympics, the more I'm going to look back and think of it as a whole and not just a result. And when I very first started, I was like, it has to be about the journey this time. It's not going to be normal. Nothing about this Olympics is normal. It has to be about the journey. And I'm really proud of what the journey represented. For me, it was firstly about being the best mum I can be, trying to fit in being an Olympic athlete, not knowing whether it's possible. And the fact that it's been possible, the fact that we've got to the start line of an Olympic Games A final is something that I'm really proud of.
Have you been able to speak to the family yet?
Yeah, I have. The children were up really early, so it was no problem FaceTiming them after the race. And yeah, to be honest, they don't really know what's going on. They're just happy to see that I'm coming home soon.
Polly, I'll ask you as well, because like Helen, you took some time away from the sport. You went to work in the NHS to help during the pandemic. You then came together as a pair, resuming this partnership. How's the experience been for you?
Oh, I just think the experience has been great. I think we came together in March, and each step of the way we've driven ourselves to the absolute limit. And it's difficult when, you know, the dream and the fairy tale is to win a medal and have something shining around our necks, but actually the experience as a whole and working as a team with our coaches and all the support staff around us has been invaluable and something I'll cherish forever. So yeah, I think we can be proud and just take a little bruising of the ego, but that's okay.
We were all hoping and praying that you would be able to get that third podium spot. It wasn't quite to be. When you look back on your performance, is there anything more you could have done, do you feel, at this stage?
I think we were just riding the absolute red line into that finish line. You know, I think we had a conversation earlier about that and where was it that we could have done something more, and I think today just wasn't our day. Maybe another day, another week, it would have been a different result. But you have to go roll with the punches, don't you?
Helen, you have both got such inspirational stories. To get to an Olympic final, to be fourth best in the world, having taken so much time away from the sport. You've obviously inspired people in the past. Is it something you're hoping that people will watch now and be inspired once more?
I hope so, and I think maybe in a different way to London and Rio. I think in London and Rio I went in going for gold and getting it, and this time it's been about going for something I didn't think would be possible, being the first woman to come back onto the team after having children and showing what can be done, and actually using the pandemic as an opportunity to do it. I never would have dreamt I'd be going to another Olympic Games. You know, the January of 2020, month before the Olympics was supposed to be happening, I had the twins and I was looking forward to watching the games on my TV. I couldn't have dreamt of what would have got me out here. And so it just shows what's possible and how to use really, really not good circumstances, but still kind of, I guess, look for a light in it.
You obviously chose to get back on the rowing machine during lockdown. A lot of talk, of course, this week, and certainly the last couple of days, about mental health and athlete mental health specifically, given Simone Biles. As an athlete now with a lot of experience, can you talk to us through a little bit about the process and what sport gives you in terms of helping your mental well-being?
Yeah, definitely. For me, when I first got back on the rowing machine in lockdown, it was never to end up here in Tokyo. It was always about having a little bit of, I guess, me time when the baby's napped, and exercise has always been the thing that's brought me back to me. And that's for many reasons, you know, the endorphins, the fact that you feel like you're investing in yourself a little bit. But there can be so many other factors the sport brings you. It can bring you confidence. It can bring you a social life. It can make you interact with people that maybe you wouldn't do outside of sport. And I just think it's invaluable. And I think that the Olympics will be looked at in a different light now we've gone through the pandemic. It's a coming together of really a mutual respect for sport and for what it can bring you, yes, at the top level, but also all the way through, right through to mental health, which I think is just really important to keep highlighting.
And Polly, if I can ask you on a similar vein, obviously you've worked back in the NHS really recently as well. as a world, I suppose, not let alone a society, have struggled during this pandemic. I mean, how important is mental health to athletes and the protection of that?
Oh, completely. I mean, I think not athletes in isolation. I think mental health as a population, as a whole world, is really important. And I think it's good that things are being talked about and it's being highlighted, and, you know, athletes in high profiles are speaking out loud and saying how it affects them. So yeah, I think if this Games can be a shining light for the world in a pandemic, and then also highlight some of these issues, I think that's a really important thing.
And when you see what Simone Biles did, with the eyes of the world on her, to choose to put her mental health first, I mean, that was strong, wasn't it?
I think it's incredibly brave, and just shows the strength of character, actually, more than anything else. I think she has the whole world looking at her, and to be able to stand up and be honest with how she is as a person and who she is it shows a great strength.
And Helen, when you heard the story of Simone and what she did, I mean, was it a similar reaction from you?
Yeah, I think there's one side of me that my heart goes out to her, and as an athlete I see the enormity of what she's potentially lost. But I think in anything that she's lost, she's gained the respect of everybody. She's gained the understanding that, you know, that there are some things more important than sport. We've both learned that ourselves, you know, through Polly working through a pandemic, through me being a parent. You get a perspective on sport, and it's great and it's amazing and we love it, but it also has its place. And I think the fact that she put her mental health first shows that actually it's what we should be doing.
I know you're both real competitors, and I know it would have been tough not to win a medal. How tough was it for you to deal with that process? And I suppose, given everything you've been through, does it make it a bit easier to put things into perspective?
Yeah, I think it's all about perspective right now. It's remembering, you know, we came off the pontoon at the end, and our coaches just almost straight away reminded us, like, months ago you weren't in a boat. 3 months ago I was breastfeeding the twins. Like, this is not normal, the way we've ended our Paralympic campaign, even the way we started it. So yeah, perspective is key right now, I think.
And I've got to ask you both, any chance for Paris? It's only 3 years away.
I know, it's kind of tempting that 4 years now being 3, but no, for me, all I'm looking forward to is having time with the babies. But Polly's a question mark.
I don't know, we'll see. I keep thinking you're a question mark.
We're both trying to persuade each
Helen's
other.
going to do the single and I'll be the support team. I don't know, we'll see.
Superb. Both extremely inspirational Team GB athletes. Thank you so
Thank
much, Helen
you.
Glover and
Thanks
Polly
ever so
Swan. You
much.
never know, perhaps we might see them back in a boat then in Paris. It is only 3 years away after all.